WISC-TV now presents For the Record. The state of the broadcast industry in the United States. That's next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. Normally, I'd probably not devote a For the Record to inside baseball stuff of the industry in which I work, but it's not often I get the opportunity to have the highly respected president of the National Broadcast Association on this show, and I want to take advantage of that opportunity to have you hear directly from him how broadcasters are doing in 2018. Gordon Smith is almost 10 years into his tenure as president and CEO of NAB. Prior to that, he was a two-term United States Senator from Oregon and a practicing attorney prior to that. Senator Smith is in Milwaukee for the summer convention of the Wisconsin Broadcast Association, and it is from there that he joins me on For the Record. Gordon, nice to see you. Thanks for doing this.
No, it's my pleasure, Neil. Good to be back in the Badger State.
You know, this show is watched by a lot of smart people who obviously care about civic affairs and public affairs in our community, but they may not have a lot of knowledge about the broadcast industry. How would you describe the state of the industry in 2018, Gordon?
Well, of course, the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, represents radio and television. And I would say, since my time on the Senate Commerce Committee with the development of the Internet, so very much has changed. The digital age has created all kinds of new platforms and all kinds of competition for ears and eyeballs. And as a consequence, broadcasting has become more challenged. On the other hand, ever more necessary, because what broadcasters do is to focus on local things and also to do it for free. If people want to just put up an antenna, obviously those exist in your car, on the radio, or at home. If you want to put up a digital antenna, you can pull down all kinds of content for free. And what that means is, while we rent our content, if you will, to satellite and cable and XM Sirius and other kinds of things like that, you can get it for free. And people in this day and age aren't as used to remembering what we knew as children, and certainly our parents did, that local broadcasting in every community in America really connects us with our communities. So that localism is something that makes us unique, and not just survivable, but thrivable, because we're so important a source of the weather, the sports, the emergency information. I often say that our competitors in the digital age, they always want our spectrum. They want our content, but they don't want to do what we do, the things that are required by an FCC, Federal Communications Commission license, which is to focus on localism, reporting the facts without fear or favor, and keeping our viewers and listeners connected to their local community. So we're in a much larger firmament of communications, of telecommunications, but we still occupy a cornerstone of that the American people count on every day.
I think one mark probably of the public's interest in our industry is their interest in ownership. What's your perspective, Gordon, on the mix of ownership? You know, viewers, I think, know that this is a family-owned station, you know, going back to 1956. But more and more, ownership is an issue nationally. What's your view of that?
Well, it's a real challenge because on the one hand, what makes us special is that local ownership. On the other hand, we're up against competitors, you know, Comcast, for example, in cable, or AT&T now with Time Warner, where we have much, much larger competitors. And so broadcasters need to have enough scale that they can compete as they negotiate the value of their content to let these other outlets use it. See, we want to be on every platform. Wherever our viewers or listeners are, we want them to enjoy our content. But that content offering is so vast now with the internet that more and more people are going away from traditional sources of listening and viewing and doing it on their phones, on their tablets, and on their computers at work. And so it's ever more challenging for a local family-owned broadcast company to compete in this larger arena. So on the one hand, what makes us so special is that local connection and ownership. On the other hand, it's harder for that small mom and pop to be able to compete with the behemoths that exist in telecommunications today. It's just a function of scale and being able to compete.
You touched on this. Again, I think a lot of viewers, are probably not real familiar with the idea that broadcasters are regulated by the federal government. What's the relationship today between broadcasters and the elected officials who regulate them?
Well, of course, back in the beginning when radio waves were discovered and the FCC was created, literally the NAB was created on the same day, the FCC was created to create avenues of spectrum that you can transmit without interference from someone else. And with that FCC license come public responsibilities that I think serve public values that are valuable still. Things like community decency standards, things like having children's video available, children's programming, things like civic engagement, reporting local news and national news. And I think what is really important for people to remember, what sets broadcasters apart from the cable guy or anyone else, is that we are there in times of emergency with really no equal. When a tornado is coming, or a flood, or a hurricane, or an earthquake, or a terrorist attack, we're not the first responders, but we're the first informers. And if you've ever been in one of those kinds of catastrophes, whether natural or man-made, the first things that fail are our cell phones. They simply are locked in a traffic jam, and you just can't get any communication going. So they simply shut down from the inability to transmit one-to-one information, whereas broadcasting is one source of information to everyone in a geographic area. And so it is the first informer role of the broadcaster in an emergency that people really tend to count on. That was true in Katrina. That was certainly true in the devastating hurricanes of this last season. It was certainly true in the California wildfires. Everything else went down except radio and television, and people were counting on us to inform them about the nature of the catastrophe, where they could be rescued, and then we're also there for the recovery. And we do all kinds of things to facilitate local communities getting the relief that they need in times of great emergency. And I'm very proud of that, and that sets us apart. And no one else does it, but we do it, sometimes at the risk of the lives of our reporters. We recently lost 2 reporters who were caught in a flash flood. It was just a freak accident. A couple of years ago, there was literally an interview going on, and someone came in and took the life of 2 reporters. But we're there, and that's part of the ethic of broadcasting, the ethic of public service. And that is a centerpiece of an FCC license, that you're there to serve the public.
Well, I'd love for you to brief us on the issues facing broadcasters today, and we will do that when we come back on For the Record, right after this.
For the Record, sponsored by MG&E, your community energy company.
Congratulations to Nicholas Schmidt, a credit recovery teacher at Memorial High School in Madison.
I work with kids who are essentially throwaways, and there's no way for them to graduate. There's no way for them to get their credit, and then they come in here and they work and they grind it out and they get it done.
If you know a teacher who deserves to be recognized as a top-notch teacher, send us a letter, an email, or nominate a teacher at channel3000.com.
Sponsored by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries and by Concordia University.
We believe every baby deserves a healthy start. Yet too many in our area are going without the most basic necessities. You can help change that.
July 9th through 13th, drop off infant care items at Associated Physicians and Viridian Homes Design Studio. Or use our handy online option to purchase and donate items. Visit Channel 3000 for easy instructions. WISC TV3 Community Baby Shower, sponsored by Viridian Homes and Associated Physicians.
Throughout a day, so much is out of our control. Alarms fail. Babies fuss. Ew, what did Eddie roll in? The News 3 team uses First Alert technology to put you back in control. How to prepare.
You're going to want an umbrella in the morning.
What to wear.
Grab a jacket on your way out.
What to expect.
The bell line's a mess, so leave a few minutes early.
What's ahead.
The weekend looks fantastic.
News 3 First Alert weather and traffic will put you in control of your day. Or most of it.
People always say they want to try new restaurants. Well, that's exactly why Madison Magazine brings you Summer Restaurant Week. With over 45 local restaurants offering delicious 3-course meals beginning at just $25, you can't go wrong. It's the perfect excuse to enhance your summer dining experience with all new flavors. And with so many restaurants to choose from, you won't even feel the heat. Bon appetit!
For a list of all participating restaurants and their amazing menus, visit MadisonRestaurantWeek.com.
My guest on For the Record is the President and CEO of the National Broadcast Association, former United States Senator Gordon Smith. Mr. Smith joins us from Milwaukee, where he has come for the summer conference of the Wisconsin Broadcast Association. Gordon, we've seen so many issues rather than being considered on their merits in Washington, being turned into political footballs. Has this happened with broadcasting issues?
Well, there are certainly internal challenges between large stations and big ones, between networks and affiliates. There are economic tensions, but I would say 90% of the time their interests are certainly aligned, and there is an effort, a recognition that they need each other. And while rates or retransmission fees are negotiated as between the two, they usually are able to come up with some common ground, and there's economic incentive going both ways. But it is certainly an easier task to manage the internal politics of broadcasters than it is to manage the politics in Washington, D.C.
What are the issues that you're working on right now, Gordon?
Well, we've just come through the first year of the Trump administration and the Congress, and I can point to 4 things of great significance to broadcasters. As to your viewers, they may know that there was authorized by Congress a spectrum auction, so that broadcasters who wanted to go out of business would sell their licenses back. And that requires the repacking of over 1,000 television stations across the country. And Congress promised that there would never, that the cost of that would not be borne by the broadcasters, but would be paid for out of the proceeds of the spectrum auction. But they didn't allocate enough money to repackage 1,000 television stations, and so we were able to win an appropriation that satisfies this very real need, so that people's television screens don't go dark. And so I would say that repack financing was a very big win for broadcasters. Certainly another is that the Federal Communications Commission authorized the voluntary deployment of something called ATSC 3.0, which is a new receiver standard, which in, I think, the coming decade, your viewers will be looking at even better pictures with immersive sound, with interactivity with the internet, and all kinds of features like mobility, so that In the future, if you put a little antenna in this phone, it'll pick up a broadcast signal for free. These are the kinds of things which I think are really important to the future of broadcasting. Not just better pictures and sound, but being able to see it when you want it, in the way you want it, and to get it for free. And that is a very exciting future for broadcasting. On another financial issue really important to the commerce of our country, as you probably know, there was a big tax bill passed, and they had to find offsets to pay for the tax cuts. Well, one of those was potentially to no longer allow the deductibility of advertising. Well, if you're in radio, 100% of your revenue is from advertising, from your local community, the Chevy dealer, the furniture store, the pharmacy. That's how you pay for a broadcast station. And if that had been taken away, it would have been a severe blow to radio and to television, because in television their revenues are probably 80% dependent upon advertising. But even more important than what it means to the bottom line and the ability to finance a broadcast station, think of what it means to the American people. We don't all like to watch ads and everything, but it is also the #1 way we find out what's for sale, what the deal is, and where I can go to get what my family needs. So it's sort of a love-hate we have with ads that come on our stations, but on the other hand, the folks need it, and those who are selling goods and services, they need to have the ability to deduct those costs as an ordinary and necessary cost of doing business. Well, that almost went away, but in the efforts of so many in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin broadcasters, with a very good friend of mine, the Speaker of the House of Representatives and a great badger, Paul Ryan, we made our case, and they understood the consequence of when you choke off information about commerce, you also choke off sales. If you choke off sales, you choke off jobs. And this tax bill was designed to promote those things, not to discourage them. So we won that argument on the merits. And had we not won it, you and I'd be having a very different conversation, because it would be very difficult to finance a broadcast station. One other issue on the radio side. In the beginning of broadcasting, it was determined by the Congress that we, by the Constitution, pay for the use of copyrighted materials. But we don't pay for their play on the radio, for example, because they wisely saw that, well, the broadcaster gets to play, and the performer gets free advertising. That's how you discover music. That's how you enjoy entertainment. And there's been an ongoing effort to charge us not just the copyright, but the performance. That would have severely damaged radio, specifically in its ability to have radio on your car or in your home. And we got a big bipartisan majority in the House of Representatives to oppose any performance tax on a radio station using music and promoting that music. So those are 4 big things we've won, and now going forward, obviously, the ability to get any more out of Washington in a midterm election year is highly doubtful and dubious. Right now in Washington, it's politics all the time, and policy resolution is taking a backseat.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what's up next for broadcasting with Gordon Smith, President and CEO of NAB, right after this message.
Talk about fireworks? Check out these offers at Denver Mattress. Get your choice of a free 50-inch LED TV or a $300 Furniture Row gift certificate with any purchase of $19.99 or more. And get a free adjustable base upgrade when you purchase select Tempur-Pedic mattress sets. Or how about Euro Top Comfort at a ridiculously low price of just $299.99? Get in on these deals today at Denver Mattress, your Tempur-Pedic elite retailer.
Ooh, I like this one.
Spectrum is redefining everything you thought you knew about internet, TV, and voice services to bring you the ultimate triple play. Introducing a true revolution in internet speed with game-changing new starting speeds of 200 megabits. That's double our previous speed and double the bandwidth for the fastest surfing, streaming, gaming, and more. Get Spectrum Internet starting at 200 megabits for $29.99 a month with no data caps and a free modem. Call 844-419-2999. Then catch all your favorites in stunning HD, plus thousands of titles free on demand with Spectrum TV for $29.99 a month. And get Spectrum Voice with unlimited calling to the U.S., Mexico, and more for $29.99 a month. Call 844-419-2999. Switch to Spectrum Internet TV and Voice for $29.99 a month each with no contracts. Call 844-419-2999.
We expect to cool off just a little bit Monday. The heat index could still be in the 90s. Hattie will update you on your forecast, and we'll see how the blue-green algae blooms are affecting both businesses along Madison's lakes and whether taking a paddle is safe starting at 4:30.
The apple cider vinegar detox. The beauty of this, I gotta say, it tastes good.
It can help you recover from a cheat day.
Your weapon for weight loss.
It has the ability to really reduce cravings.
Next on.
Weekdays at 3 on WISC TV3.
My guest on For the Record from Milwaukee, the president of the National Association of Broadcasters, Gordon Smith. Gordon, former U.S. Senator, what's it like asking some of your former colleagues to consider your issues?
Well, it's a real privilege to not only have been in Congress, but also to have continuing friendships with Republicans and Democrats alike. And the nice thing about our issues is they don't register Republican and Democrat. They register as local, as American, as issues of concern, no matter how people vote. And I think they appreciate the fact that broadcasters, with a concern for localism, they're not out there pushing an ideological perspective one way or another. In fact, my former colleague Chuck Schumer, now the minority leader in the Senate, he recently accepted an invitation to speak to a large group of broadcasters. And, you know, Chuck and I didn't agree on a lot of things, but he said something that I profoundly agree with. And he made the observation that in an age where you have cable shout shows going back and forth, and one has an angle this way and the other, he said, you know, the one place I can go where I can just get the straight facts out, and that's what they want, and let their listeners or viewers decide, it's my local radio and TV stations. And that's something, with all the cacophony out there of noise and partisanship, it is that source to which members of Congress and both parties really value. And I think the American people value that too, and we need that kind of common ground to engage on in a civic way, in a way that is civil. And so I think our message is well heard. I know when I was in the U.S. Senate, my staff wisely would schedule my time back in Oregon to include many stops by radio and television stations, and they would interview me, and it didn't cost me anything, but it was the best megaphone for communicating what's going on in Washington, my positions on issues, and how to reconcile those with the diverse positions of the electorate. So it's a really important conduit that still remains in all of the divisiveness that exists in Washington. And members of Congress of both parties appreciate that.
Gordon, you mentioned the future of you know, getting local broadcast on our phones. In the 2 minutes we have remaining, what do you envision? What's exciting you about the years ahead?
Well, I think for radio, for example, there's an opportunity to do a deal with the performance community, which is very diverse, to figure out how to have an affordable rate on the digital platform versus a free and, which right now it's unaffordable. And so, and then on the terrestrial side, the traditional side, there's room for common ground and a settlement of the disputes between us and the performance community. On the TV side, I mentioned ATSC 3.0 receiver standard, which I think is going to allow broadcasters not just to survive but to thrive in the future. Again, it's really hard for our competitors in telecommunications to compete with free and local. That piece that uses our spectrum, which is public spectrum, in a way that serves the public generally and includes everyone, regardless of your ability to pay for a cable bill or a radio subscription service. We continue to occupy the cornerstone of the foundation of telecommunications because, again, we use our spectrum licenses for the benefit of all the American people. And we do it for free, so that includes everybody.
Gordon Smith, thank you very much. Thanks for the time, and enjoy the rest of your stay in Wisconsin. We're going to wrap up For the Record right after this.
It's my pleasure to do so. Thank you.
First Choice Dental's got going to the dentist solved. And when you've got 11 convenient neighborhood clinics, you can solve a lot of problems. Like helping you get in and get back to your busy day with SNAP appointments, making the most of your insurance with Coverage Check, and helping you relax with soothing MyChair choices like sunglasses, music, even sedation. Schedule your appointment at firstchoicedental.com.
It's Grand Appliance and TV's 4th of July sale. Buy 2, get 2 on Frigidaire Professional. Buy a refrigerator and range, get a dishwasher and microhood free. And Grand is giving up to $300 savings on Samsung and Frigidaire Gallery appliances. Plus, check out our holiday LG laundry buy. Save $1,000 on these top LG pairs. Save at your Grand showroom or online at grandappliance.com. Grand Appliance and TV. You make it home, we make it grand.
IRS agent is waiting for your call back.
When you've been scammed, when a business won't listen, when you get obstacles instead of solutions, don't give up. Call for action.
I'm News 3's Leah Lynchide. Our Call for Action investigators are here for you, exposing scams, mediating consumer disputes, and getting results. Contact us by phone or on channel3000.com.
News 3's Call for Action, only on WISC TV3.
We've got your back.
Enjoy an evening on the water at Madison Magazine's Top Shelf Summer Taste at Naughty Gal, Monday, August 6th from 6 to 9 p.m. Taste the very best vodka, gin, rum, and more, as well as delicious appetizers and sweets. Plus, enjoy live music and cocktails from the city's best mixologists. Tickets are only $30. For the full list of exhibitors and ticket information, visit MadisonMagazineExperience.com.
My thanks to Gordon Smith from NAB and to you for joining us. We'll see you next week on For the Record.